You know, in the history of music, you get moments of evolution, and then you get moments of pure, straight up revolution. And Jimi Hendrix, he was a revolution. I mean, think about it. In just 4 years, this guy didn't just play the electric guitar, he completely rewired its DNA and changed the very definition of what it could be. Right from the get-go, Hendrix just refused to be put in a box. So when a journalist tried to pin him down about his race, he came back with this classic line. And you gotta love that, right? It wasn't just him being funny. It was his whole philosophy. It's like he was saying, don't you dare try to define me by my skin, my music, or anyone's expectations but my own. So that really begs the question, right? How on earth did one guy in only 4 years completely redefine an instrument? How does a self-taught musician from such a humble background become the architect of a sound that basically every guitarist after him would be chasing? Well, to figure that out, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning. Okay, so let's dive in. To really get his genius, you have to understand that those wild space-age sounds he was famous for, they didn't just come from nowhere. Nope, they were built on this rock-solid, super disciplined foundation. And man, was it forged in the fire. And when I say humble beginnings, I mean it. This is wild. As a kid in Seattle, he literally started out playing air guitar on a broom. A broom. His dad saw his passion, eventually got him a one-string ukulele, and then a $5 acoustic. And then boom, by 1959 he's got his first electric. So think about that. In just 2 years, he went from a broomstick to an actual electric guitar, from pure imagination to amplification. Incredible. Now this next part, absolutely crucial. As a young guy, he becomes a sideman, touring the ridiculously tough R&B circuit in the South. This was his real education, his boot camp. Playing for the Isley Brothers, that's where he learned how to lock into a killer groove. Backing Little Richard, that's where he got his stage presence. Although, fun fact, he kept getting fired for being too much of a showman. And touring with King Curtis, that's where he perfected that super precise, almost saxophone-like playing style that became a huge part of his sound. So he's got this incredible rhythmic foundation now, right? He takes that skill, lands in London in 1966, and everything changes. Swinging London was the perfect place, the perfect storm for him to finally build the arsenal of sounds that would make him, well, Jimi Hendrix. So what was at the core of his new sound? Feedback. Yeah, that screeching noise that every other guitarist on the planet was trying to get rid of. Hendrix heard it and thought, wait a minute, I can use that. For him, it wasn't a mistake. It was a whole other instrument. He figured out how to physically dance with his amplifier, using his guitar to control the feedback, to bend it to his will. He turned pure noise into pure music. And this was his toolbox, his sonic playground. You start with the iconic Fender Strat, you end with the wall of sound from a Marshall stack. But the magic was in the middle. The fuzz face pedal gave him that thick, dirty distortion. The wah-wah pedal let it make the guitar cry and talk. And then there was the secret weapon, the Octavia. This was a custom job from his collaborator Roger Meyer, and it added this crazy high octave sound on top of everything. It sounded like something from another planet. Nobody had ever heard anything like it. And you can literally hear this gear in action on the records. Think of that killer heavy riff in Foxy Lady. That's all fuzz face. Or the way the guitar literally sounds like it's talking during the Voodoo Child solo. Pure wah-wah pedal. And that piercing, unforgettable sound that kicks off Purple Haze, that's it. That's the Octavia. That's the sound that completely changed rock music forever. But Hendrix wasn't just about the gear and the notes. He blew up into this massive cultural icon. And with that fame came this really complicated and honestly pretty painful struggle with who he was and who the world wanted him to be. I mean, look at this. It's a total paradox. The media called him the psychedelic super spade, this crazy racial caricature. But Jimi, he always said his music was without color. The world saw a hippie utopian, but he had this incredibly deep connection to his Cherokee heritage. There's this famous story about the album Axe as Bold as Love. He told the record label he wanted the cover to reflect his Native American roots, and they completely misunderstood and painted him and the band as Hindu gods. It just shows you the disconnect. And all that pressure, it really started to get to him. By 1969, he was just tired. Tired of the act, the whole smashing guitars, playing with his teeth thing. He started calling it his erotic athletics. And you can tell he felt like a clown. It was becoming a trap. He was trying to push music forward, but a lot of the audience just wanted the same old tricks. So because he was feeling so trapped, he started searching for a deeper meaning. Which brings us to his idea of building an electric church. He wanted his music to be more than just a show. He started to see it as something powerful, something that could be spiritual and even political. Yeah, he actually called it his electric church. The whole idea was that music could be this transcendent experience. It could bring people together, connect them on this deep emotional level that went way beyond all the junk, all the social and racial barriers that he was constantly dealing with himself. And if there was ever a sermon in the electric church, man, it was Woodstock. His performance of the Star-Spangled Banner, it wasn't a cover song. It was a statement. He used all those tools, the feedback, the distortion, to make his guitar sound like the Vietnam War. You could hear the bombs dropping, the sirens wailing, the screams. It was everything at once, a protest, a prayer, a complete masterpiece. So after a moment like that, where do you even go? Well, that brings us to our final section, an unfinished legacy. His last year was just this incredible explosion of creativity. He was pointing the way to so many different futures for music, all of which were just cut short. I mean, the guy was moving at the speed of light. He starts the Band of Gypsies, basically inventing funk rock. He builds his own dream studio, Electric Lady Studios, so he can have total control. He's got plans in the works to record with the one and only Miles Davis, and get this, he even laid down a whole acoustic autobiographical album called Black Gold, which was then lost for years. It's just mind-boggling. He had so much more to do, so much more to create, and then, just like that, it all stopped. He was only 27. And to make a tragic story even more complicated, he died without a will. His estate, which was eventually worth around $80 million, became the subject of decades of ugly legal battles. So his death wasn't just a loss for music, it was also this really messy, cautionary tale. But his music, well, his music lived on, and in some really cool and unexpected ways. A whole generation later, hip-hop producers started digging through his records. A Tribe Called Quest, The Pharcyde, Beastie Boys, even Frank Ocean, they all sampled his work, building their own revolutionary sounds on top of the foundation he laid down. And really, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? His music remains a testament to the power of artistic vision to transcend the constraints of time, race, and genre. That's it, right there. His vision was just too big to be held down by anything. And so we're left with this one big, unanswerable question. The man completely rewired modern music in only 4 years. It's just staggering to think about what else he could have built, what other worlds he might have created if he'd only had more time.